It's a dark and stormy night, perfect for the rest of our story of Letters of a Woman Homesteader. Chapter 19. The Joys of Homesteading. January 23rd, 1913. Dear Mrs. Coney, I'm afraid all my friends think I am very forgetful, and that you think I am forgetful as well, but I am going to plead not guilty. Right after Christmas, Mr. Stewart came down with la grippe, and was so miserable that it kept me busy trying to relieve him. Out here, where we can get no physician, we have to dope ourselves, so that I had to be housekeeper, nurse, doctor, and general overseer. That explains my long silence. And now I want to thank you for your kind thought in prolonging our Christmas. The magazines were much appreciated. They relieved some weary night watching, and the box did Jerrine more good than the medicine I was having to give her for la grippe. She was content to stay in bed and enjoy the contents of her box. When I read of the hard times among the Denver poor, I feel like urging them every one to get out and file on land. I'm very enthusiastic about women homesteading. It really requires less strength and labor to raise plenty to satisfy a large family than it does to go out to wash, with the added satisfaction of knowing that their job will not be lost to them if they care to keep it. Even if improving the place does go slowly, it is that much done to stay done. Whatever is raised in the homesteader's own, and there is no house rent to pay. This year Jerrine cut and dropped enough potatoes to raise a ton of fine potatoes. She wanted to try, so we let her, and you will remember that she is but 6 years old. We had a man to break the ground and cover the potatoes for her, and the man irrigated them once. That was all that was done until digging time, when they were plowed out and Jerrine picked them up. Any woman strong enough to get out by the day could have done every bit of the work and put in 2 or 3 times that much, and it would have been so much more pleasant than to work so hard in the city and then be on starvation rations in the winter. To me, homesteading is the solution of all poverty's problems, but I realize that temperament has much to do with success in any undertaking, and persons afraid of coyotes and work and loneliness had better let ranching alone. At the same time, any woman who can stand her own company can see the beauty of the sunset, loves growing things, and is willing to put in as much time as careful labor as she does over the washtub, will certainly succeed, will have independence, plenty to eat all the time, and a home of her own in the end. Experimenting need cost the homesteader no more than the work, because by applying to the Department of Agriculture at Washington, he can get enough of any seed as many kinds as he wants to make a thorough trial, and it doesn't even cost postage. Also, one can always get bulletins from there and from the experiment station of one's own state concerning any problem or as many problems as may come up. I could not for anything allow Mr. Stewart to do anything towards improving my place, for I want the fun and the experience myself, and I want to be able to speak from experience that I tell others what they can do. Theories are very beautiful, but facts are what must be made, and what I intend to give sometime. Here I am boring you to death with things that cannot interest you. You'd think I wanted you to homestead, wouldn't you? But I am only thinking of the troops of tired, wearied women, sometimes even cold and hungry, scared to death of losing their places to work, who could have plenty to eat, who could have good fires by gathering the wood and comfortable homes of their own, if they but had the courage and determination to get them. I must stop right now before you get so tired you will not answer. With much love to you from Jerrine and myself, I am yours affectionately, Eleanor Rupert Stewart. Chapter 20. A Letter of Jerrine's. February 26, 1913. Dear Mrs. Coney, I think you will excuse my mamma for not writing to thank you for the Black Beauty when I tell you why. I wanted to thank you myself, and I wanted to hear it read first so I could very truly think. Mamma always said horses do not talk, but now she knows they do since she reads the dear little book. I have known it a long time. My own pony told me the story is very true. Many times I have seen men treat horses very badly, but our Clyde don't, and won't let a workman stay if he hurts stock. I am very glad. Mr. Edding came past one day with a load of hay. He had too much load to pull uphill, and there was much ice and snow, but he thinks he can make them up the hill, so he frightened and swore, but they could not get up. Mamma tried to lend him some horses to help him, but he was angry and was determined to make his own pull it, but at last he had to take off some hay, and I wish he may read my Black Beauty. Our Clyde is still away. We were going to visit Stella. Mamma was driving the horses, reined away. We goed very fast as the wind. I almost fell out. Mamma hanged on to the lines. If she let go, we may be all killed. At last she reined them into a fence. They stopped, and a man ran to help, so we were well, but Mamma's hands and arms are still so sore she can't write you yet. My brother Calvin is very sweet. God had to give him to us because he squealed so much he disturbed the angels. We are not angels, so he don't disturb us. I thank you for my good little book, and I love you for it too. Very speakfully, Jerrine Rupert. Chapter 21. The Efficient Mrs. O'Shaughnessy. May 5th, 1913. Dear Mrs. Coney, your letter of April 25th certainly was a surprise, but a very welcome one. We are so rushed with the spring work that we don't even go to the office for the mail, and I owe you letters and thanks. I keep promising myself the pleasure of writing you, and keep putting it off until I can have more leisure. But that time never gets here, and I'm so glad when I can bring a little of this big, clean, beautiful outdoors into your apartment for you to enjoy. And I can think of nothing that would give me more happiness than to bring the West and its people to others who could not otherwise enjoy them. If I could only take them from whatever is worrying them and give them this bracing mountain air, glimpses of the scenery, a smell of the pines and the sage. If I could only take them from whatever is worrying them and give them this bracing mountain air, glimpses of the scenery, a smell of the pines and sage. If I could only make them feel the free, ready sympathy and the hospitality of the frontier people, I am sure their worries would diminish and my happiness would be complete. Little Star Crosby is growing to be the sweetest little kid. Her mother tells me that she is going back in when she gets a little more richer. I'm afraid you give me too much credit for being of help to poor little Molly. It wasn't that I am so helpful, but that fools rush in where angels fear to tread. It was Mrs. O'Shaughnessy who was the real help. She is a woman of great courage and decision, and of splendid sense of judgment. A few days ago, a man she had working for her got his fingernail smashed off and neglected to care for it. Mrs. O'Shaughnessy examined it and found that gangrene had set in. She didn't tell him, but made various preparations and then told him she had heard that if there was a danger of blood poisoning, it would show if the finger was placed on the wood and the patient looked towards the sun. She said the person who looked at the finger could then see if there was any poison. So the man placed his finger on the chopping block, and before he could bat his eyes, she had chopped off the black swollen finger. It was so sudden and unexpected that there seemed to be no pain. Then Mrs. O'Shaughnessy showed him the green streak already starting up his arm. The man seemed dazed, and she was afraid of the shock. So she gave him a dose of morphine and whiskey. Then, with a quick stroke of a razor, she laid open the green streak and immersed the whole arm in a strong solution of bichloride of mercury for 20 minutes. She then dressed the wound with absorbent cotton saturated with olive oil and carbolic acid, bundled her patient into a buggy, and drove 45 miles that night to get him to a doctor. The doctor told us that only her quick action and knowledge of what to do saved the man's life. I was surprised that you have had a letter from Jerrine. I knew she was writing to you that day, but I was feeling very stiff and sore from the runaway that had lain me down. She kept asking me how to spell words until I told her I was too tired and wanted to sleep. While I was asleep, the man came for the mail, so she sent her letter. I have your address on the back of a writing pad, so she knew she had it right. But I suspect was all she had right. She has written you many letters, but I have never allowed her to send them because she misspells. But that time she stole a march on me. The books you sent her, The Black Beauty and Alice in Wonderland, had given her more pleasure than anything she had ever had. She just loves them and is saving them, she says, for her own little girls. She is very confident that the stork will one day visit her and leave her a very many little girls. They are to be of assorted sizes. She says she can't see why I order all my babies little and red and squealy. She says thinks God has just as soon let me have larger ones, especially as I get so many from him. One day before long I will get busy and write you a visit I shall make to a Mormon bishop's household. Very truly yours, Eleanor Rupert Stewart. 22. How it happened. June 12th, 1913. Dear Mrs. Coney, your letter of the 8th to hand, and in order to catch you before you leave, I'll answer at once and not write for a time. I always think I shall do better with more time, but with 3 bairns, gardens, chickens, cows, and housework, I don't seem to find much time for anything. Now for the first question. My maiden name was Pruitt, so when I am putting on airs, I sign Eleanor Pruitt Stewart. I don't think I have ever written anything that Clyde would object to, so he can still stay on the pedestal Scotch custom puts him upon and remain the Stewart. Indeed, I don't think you are too inquisitive, and I am glad to tell you how I happened to meet the good man. It all happened because I had a stitch in my side. When I was housekeeper at the nursery, I also had to attend to the furnace. And strange but true, the furnace was built across the large basement from where the coal was thrown in. So I had to tote the coal over, and my modus operandi was to fill a tub with coal and then drag it across to the hungry furnace. Well, one day I felt the catch and got no better fast. After Dr. F. punched and prodded, she said, "Why, you have the grip." Reverend Father Corrigan had been preparing me to take the civil service examination, and that afternoon a lesson was due. So I went over to let him see how little I knew. It was in pain, and was so blue that I could hardly speak without weeping. So I told the Reverend Father how tired I was of the rattle and bang, of the glare and the soot, and the smells and the hurry. I told him what I longed for was the sweet free open, and that I would like to homestead. That was Saturday evening. He advised me to go straight uptown and put an ad in the newspaper, so as to get into the Sunday paper. I did so, and because I wanted as much rest and quiet as possible, I took Jerrine and went uptown and got a nice quiet room. On the following Wednesday, I received a letter from Clyde, who was in Boulder visiting his mother. He was leaving for Wyoming the following Saturday and wanted an interview. If his proposition suited me, I was so glad of his offer, but at the same time I couldn't know what kind of a person he was. So, to lessen any risk, I asked him to come to the Sunshine Mission, where Miss Ryan was going to help me size him up. He didn't know that part of it, of course, but he stood inspection admirably. I was under the impression he had a son, but he hadn't, and he and his mother were the very last of their race. I am as proud and happy today as I was the day I became his wife. I wish you knew him, but I suspect I had better not brag too much, lest you think me not quite sincere. He expected to visit you while he was in Boulder. He went to the stock show, but was with a party, so he planned to go again. But before he could, the man he left here, and whom I dismissed for drunkenness, went to Boulder and told him I was alone. So the foolish thing hurried home to keep me from too hard work. So that is why he was disappointed. Junior can talk quite well, and even Calvin jabbers. The children are all well, and Jerrine writes a little every day to you. I have been preparing a set of indoor outings for invalids. Your telling your invalid friends enjoyed the letters suggested the idea. I thought to write of little outings I take might amuse them, but wanted to write just as I took the little trips, while the impressions were fresh, and that's why I have not sent them before now. Is it too late? Shall I send them to you? Now this is really not a letter, it is just a reply. I must say good night. It is 12 o'clock, and I am so sleepy. I do hope you will have a very happy summer, and that you will share your happiness with me in occasional letters. With much love, Eleanor Stewart. In writing, I forgot to say that Reverend Father thought it a good plan to get a position as housekeeper for some rancher who would advise me about land and water rights. By keeping house, he pointed out I could have a home and a living at the same time, see what kind of a homestead I could get. Success. November 1913. Dear Mrs. Coney, this is Sunday, and I suppose I ought not to be writing, but I must write to you, and I may not have another chance soon. Both your letters have reached me, and now that our questions are settled, we can proceed. Now, this is the letter I have been wanting to write you for a long time, but could not because, until now, I had not actually proven all I wanted to prove. Perhaps it will not interest you, but if you see a woman who wants to homestead and is a little afraid she will starve, you can tell her what I am telling you. I never did like to theorize, and so this year I set out to prove that a woman could ranch if she wanted to. We like to grow potatoes on new ground, that is newly cleared land on which no crop has been grown. Few weeds grow on new land, so it makes less work. So I selected my potato patch, and the man plowed it, although I could have done that if Clyde would have let me. I cut the potatoes, Jerrine helped, and we dropped them into the rows. The man covered them, and that ends the man's part. By that time the garden ground was ready, so I planted the garden. I had almost an acre in vegetables. I irrigated and I cultivated it myself. We had all the vegetables we could possibly use, and now Jerrine and I have put in our cellar full, and this is what we have. 1 large bin of potatoes, more than 2 tons, half a ton of carrots, a large bin of beets, 1 of turnips, 1 of onions, 1 of parsnips, and on the other side of the cellar we have more than 100 heads of cabbage. I have experienced and found a kind of squash that can be raised here, and that the ripe ones keep well and make good pies. Also that the young tender ones make splendid pickles, quite equal to cucumbers. I was glad to stumble on that because pickles are hard to manufacture when you have nothing to work with. Now I have plenty. They told me when I came that I could not even raise common beans, but I tried and succeeded. And also I raised lots of green tomatoes, and we liked them preserved. I made them all up that way. Experimenting along another line, I found that I could make ketchup, as delicious as that of tomatoes of gooseberries. I made it exactly the same as I do the tomatoes, and I am delighted. Gooseberries were very fine and very plentiful this year, so I put up a great many. I milked 10 cows twice a day all summer. Have sold enough butter to pay for a year's supply of flour and gasoline. We use a gasoline lamp. I have raised enough chickens to completely renew my flock, and all we wanted to eat, and have some fryers to go into the winter with. I have enough turkeys for all of our birthdays and holidays. I raised a great many flowers, and I worked several days in the field. In all I have told about, I have had no help but Jerrine. Clyde's mother spends each summer with us, and she helped me with the cooking and the babies. Many of my neighbors did better than I did, although I know many town people would doubt my doing so much. But I did it. I have tried every kind of work this ranch affords, and I can do any of it. Of course, I am extra strong, but those who try know that strength and knowledge come with doing. I just love to experiment, to work, and to prove out things, so that ranch life and roughing it just suits me. The end. I hope you have enjoyed Letters of a Woman Homesteader by Eleanor Pruitt Stewart. I really enjoyed this. This is like a treasure of Americana to see how people did things back then, and in her own words. We're really lucky that this was passed down to us. And we'll have to start a new book next, something girly or something about women. We'll have to see, and we'll be doing that on Wednesday. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.